Thanks for joining us for the 33rd Annual ISTE Conference and Exhibition here in San Diego, California. I'm Amy Rogers with ISTE Vision News, and I'll be bringing you all the action from throughout the week. A special pre-conference event kicked off Sunday's activities. The Leadership Symposium hosted leaders and VIPs attending ISTE 2012.
Now this is from a woman that teaches in Tasmania, about as far south as you can go before you fall into the ocean and head to Antarctica. And she said, we have a national test in May, but it's incidental. We never teach to the test.
Those who make it happen were recognized at the Make It Happen reception, also known as the Pink Jacket reception on Sunday.
Make It Happen reception is the highest award that you can be awarded in our field of educational technology. Someone that has a passion for technology, someone that really exemplifies what we would like to see with educational technology in classrooms. This is the one time of year where we can get together and you don't feel like you're on your own little island. You go home and you are so excited about what you've learned, talking to other people, you just become energized.
ISTE 2012 held its opening kickoff Sunday afternoon to welcome some of the more than 20,000 people who will attend this year's event.
Hello everybody and welcome to ISTE 2012! Welcome to beautiful sunny San Diego. You guys have flown miles. You've waited months to be here. Aren't you pumped up to kick off ISTE 2012?
Tickets are required for all BYOD events. It's only logical.
Well, of course. Yes. I plan to attend the BYOD session on Klingon technology.
I was feeling so short-sighted till my section was ignited in a slight textile drain. I was an intellectual sissy till I found myself in a sea. Now I found I have a brain.
Expanding horizons really is expanding learning, expanding our awareness and our understanding of the world around us, but it's also expanding beyond the bubble, beyond the curriculum, beyond the textbook, and really expanding our horizons to what these children can be if we just get out of their way and let them do that.
We had a chance to stop by the Global Education Summit held in conjunction with the Global Education Conference.
At my school, we're working on global initiatives and trying to develop our global programs, so this really appeals exactly to what we're doing.
I live in Barrow, Alaska, which is on the Arctic Ocean, the very northernmost city in the United States, and we have very limited access to anything. And so we're starting video conferencing. We just got all of our systems installed for our 8 villages, and I want to find out how I can get our kids connected.
So what we're so excited about partnering is, in fact, giving voice, giving a chance for students and teachers around the world in countries that would never have the chance to participate in this kind of international conference. And so we are basically lending our entire network to this initiative and excited by what we can do together.
The setup continues to roll on here in the exhibit hall as they get ready to have 500 exhibits on display for attendees to come and check out right here. That's all for now. For ISTE Vision News, I'm Amy Rogers. We'll see you next time.
By nature, ISTE is almost always looking forward. We're constantly looking at what EdTech trends are around the corner and how they can be utilized to improve learning and teaching. It's an innovative life we lead. Sometimes, though, it's important and even rewarding to take the time to look back at where we've been and what we've accomplished. So what are ISTE's biggest accomplishments over the past 10 years? It was difficult to decide, but we ended up settling on 3 core areas. Our efforts to connect and empower educators, specifically through social media and advocacy, ISTE's nets and their refresh, and our global relationships.
Keeping up with new media, social media, and new communication structures and tools, and positioned ourselves really with our sort of 2 core competencies: the trusted source for information and knowledge, and the whole idea of connecting educators who have an interest in using technology well. We've been able to do that in the emerging environments for communication and collaboration. And I think what I'm most proud of is the fact that that over the decade we continue to evolve and make excellent use of new tools and emerging structures in order to do that, as well as any association in the education space.
Today, ISTE's social channels are more robust than ever, working to constantly connect and engage educators from all over the world. Our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter platforms have a combined community of more than 40,000, a number that continues to grow each day. Like our social communities, our advocacy efforts have grown by leaps and bounds as well.
ISTE's efforts in advocacy have significantly ramped up in the last few years and on a number of levels. So we do, first of all, I think we're engaging our members in advocacy issues in the agenda for a digital age education in ways that we were never able to before. For example, out of the DC office, Hillary has developed what she calls advocacy in a box, and so now probably a dozen or more of our affiliates each year make use of her kit for promoting advocacy at their own conferences in the state or province or country that they happen to be in. And so we engage a much larger percentage of our members in that activity where they learn in their jurisdiction what they can do to promote the agenda for 21st century learning, 21st century education.
ISTE's advocacy efforts range from fun activities like celebrating Advocacy Month to developing valuable tools and resources like the new book, Advocacy and Educational Technology, a guide to getting your voice heard. Continued growth in our advocacy efforts have led to significant and tangible successes, such as protection of E-rate funding for schools, which is the program that provides discounts, telecommunications, and internet access to schools and libraries in the United States.
There have been a number of challenges to that funding source and efforts to dilute it and use it for other things and so forth. And ISTE's consistently held that reducing that discount or removing that discount would actually set many of our schools in the nation back years and years in the use of technology and the ability to connect their students worldwide.
The importance of technology is indisputable. Advances in technology have drastically changed the way we interact with the world and each other. The digital age requires that we understand and are able to harness the power of technology to live and learn. To assist in developing this understanding, ISTE developed the NETs.
ISTE's NETs originally were the National Education Technology Standards, and it's a framework of skills, framework of competencies that identify what students need to know and be able to do to learn effectively and use technology well in their daily lives. But it's also a framework, a consistent framework that gives us information about what teachers need to be able to do and know about technology, what school leaders also need to know and be able to do with technology.
Over the past 10 years, ISTE has continued in its commitment to advancing digital age learning, teaching, and leading, with the NETS initiatives, including an important refresh of the standards.
As we looked at the aging original NETs, we realized that we'd had significant impact and had helped to make ISTE a household word in the U.S. and actually Canada and Australia made use of those as well. But we realized it was time to update those standards, to refresh those standards. And so we went through the process, and the first thing that our constituency told us, especially even in North America, that they wanted to be sure we made those frameworks, that set of standards appropriate worldwide. The refresh was a major impetus in our going from a pretty substantial regional organization with a major step toward a truly global organization.
In addition to the NETS refresh, ISTE has continued to grow its global reach in other ways, including adding new affiliate organizations, building out our ambassador program, focusing on international topics at our annual conference and exposition, sitting on UNESCO committees, and participating in co-hosted conferences in Singapore and Dubai.
It's important for ISTE to work in other regions of the world, in Singapore specifically, because we've got an opportunity to see other models of using technology. There's a country that has very high ratings in international comparisons, who's used technology for a number of decades now. It's had 3 major implementation plans, national plans. And while they've done a wonderful job of implementing and integrating technology in their style of teaching at this time and learning, they're very interested in learning from us how you promote creativity, how you look at student-directed learning. We're very interested from them to see the kinds of supports that they used in order to be sure that their teachers were able to apply the professional development, embedded professional development and coaching that they were able to receive. So we learn from each other. We've been fortunate to engage with UNESCO on a number of fronts, and that's always good work because they obviously have a lot of policy influence and also opportunity to demonstrate worldwide.
We're proud of what ISTE and our members have accomplished over the past 10 years and look forward to what the future holds as our members and volunteers continue to transform learning environments in their schools and around the globe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ISTE CEO Don Knezik.
Hey, good morning, those of you with us here in San Diego, and especially our remote audience. We welcome you this time and are pleased that so many of you are able to participate. I'm delighted to be here today amid thousands of educators from throughout the world who are dedicated to improving learning for our students. You are actually the living embodiment of ISTE's mission. How were your first 2 days? Good? Well, whether it's your first conference or your 15th, we hope you're reveling in the collaboration and the learning taking place here in San Diego. As you soak up new ideas, hear inspiring speakers, and make connections throughout the conference, we hope you will share these insights with educators near and far. Your collective wisdom and your discernment about how to improve learning environments with technology has the power to impact learners not only here, but across the globe. As you know, this will be my final ISTE conference address as CEO. That's a little bit bittersweet. I thought it might be good to reflect upon and share the 5 most important lessons I've learned during my tenure here. Pearson recently asked me to detail 5 things I've learned for a new program that they are about to launch, and I can tell you this: narrowing down your top 5 is no small undertaking, as you want to be sure that you truly capture what's most important to you. You can all read about these online soon, but I thought I'd share the highlights of my top learns. Number 1, world-class teachers and school principals are the most critical upstream inputs to a world-class education. Above all, who you have teaching young learners and who you have providing leadership to those teachers on a day-to-day basis are the most important determinants of the quality of education our young learners receive. Investment in teachers and leaders is the championship strategy. Number 2, education policy is important, but education policy backed by leadership and incentive funding is a game changer. I encourage all of you to engage with the advocacy activities of ISTE and our sister professional organizations that are concerned with engaging and relevant digital age education. Number 3, accountability based on needs of a previous generation does not result in an education system that prepares our learners for their futures. Number 4, the most important lessons to be learned are not only inside the 4 walls of our classrooms. Today we know digital access, connectivity, digital skills, and information sophistication are crucial to thriving in the future. And finally, number 5, when organizations collaborate, kids win. What education agencies, organizations, and institutions can accomplish individually is quickly dwarfed by what we can do together. Making things better for learners all over the world is very, very hard work. Working together, we can do more. So there you have it, the 5 most important things I've learned. And speaking of hard work, I now would like to spend a moment talking about someone who knows the meaning of rolling up your sleeves better than most. I met Anita Mackin back in either 83 or 84. I had written her after I had had a next session accepted to ask her if there were any funds available helping to support starving classroom teachers to travel to present at NEC, now at the ISTE annual conference. She wrote me back, letting me know regretfully that ISTE was unable to provide travel support to breakout speakers. Nevertheless, I think it's safe to say we've been in touch with each other for almost 30 years. Anita's greatest strengths are clearly her passion for increasing knowledge and broadening the minds of educators, and the incredible common sense approach to considering all sides fairly of any issue. Of course, I don't want to shortchange her exceptional depth and breadth of experience with emerging technologies for learning and teaching, nor her authentic intellectual curiosity. And she is a great calming force anytime things get stormy. I count both my personal and professional relationships with Anita Mackin among my very richest. Enjoy this celebration of Anita's positive contributions with me, if you will. Hi, Anita. Congratulations. I've always considered you the heart of the professional education expertise at ISTE, and that's for decades.
I came to work for ISTE in 1988, and I quickly learned that if I stayed close to Anita, not only would I have a lot more fun and I'd learn a lot, I'd also stay really connected and close to the heart of what ISTE is all about. Watching her every year with the conference program has been a special treat. She's like a master alchemist who is adding and adjusting her potion with the idea that she's creating this perfect prescription for every type of attendee. She was ISTE's social network before the technology ever caught up with her. And the community that was NAC, now is the ISTE conference, is in large part due to her being at the heart of it.
25 years of service to ISTE and the EdTech field, Anita has supported the transition of the Computing Teacher magazine to today's Learning and Leading with Technology.
In my role as the editor of Learning and Leading with Technology, I've had the privilege of working with Anita since 1999. In her time as the acquisitions editor on the magazine, she has taken it from its humble beginnings as the Oregon Computing Teacher to what you all know now as L&L. She's introduced thousands of readers to hundreds of excellent educators with special stories to tell. Thanks, Anita, for letting me be part of your story, even for a little bit of time.
In addition to her editorial work, Anita is also the program chair for ISTE's annual conference, leading teams of experts from all over the world as they build the content that becomes the conference experience we all know and love.
Anita is first and foremost a teacher, but instead of thinking about 30 students, she's thinking about the learning and professional growth needs of 10,000 people and putting together an incredible program.
Anita is the premier conference organizer when it comes to speakers. She's able to bring together all the information from all the reviewers and make the best program possible for ISTE attendees. Anita is cheerful, organized. Anita is Anita.
Anita, when I think of ISTE, I think of you, because you've been there as long as I've been there. The first ISTE I went to was in Norfolk, and you were there. Then we came to San Diego, and then you recruited me to help you in Philadelphia. And that was my first involvement with ISTE. And since then, I've seen you every time.
Hey, Anita. I am really sad to see you go, and so appreciative and thankful for everything that you've done for ISTE over the years. I remember at the very beginning, in fact, what am I talking about the very beginning? To this day, coming to you to ask a question about who might know how to do such and such, and you would tell me about a classroom teacher in 3rd grade in Mississippi or a high school teacher in North Dakota who was doing something that was incredible. I'd want to know where there was an administrator who knew about a certain thing, and you knew all these people. But what really amazed me was you didn't just know their names. I'd be with you at the ISTE conference or at NEC in those days, and you had a personal relationship with all of these people. I don't know how ISTE will ever replicate your database and personal network in a way that is just so easy to access and so rich of understanding what really matters in education. Thank you for your years of passion to ISTE, and also just for your spirit of togetherness and bringing the EdTech community together in fun and play, but always, always focused on what matters for kids. We'll miss you.
From the members, attendees, volunteers, and staff of ISTE, thank you, Anita, and best wishes for a long and happy retirement.
Whew. So please help me give a warm ISTE 2012 welcome to our own Anita Mackin. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. I've always, throughout my whole career at ISTE, I've always said I had the most wonderful job in the world. It's been fun and interesting. There's always been some new technology to learn or some new acronym that I had to remember. But most of all, it's been because of you that it's been such a wonderful job. Educators and students, empowered by technology and their own imaginations, are some of the most creative and innovative people that I know. And I've watched you do amazing things and take on incredible challenges and really make a difference in the lives of children. And I would say carry on, except that at this point I really think you're an unstoppable force. So what I really have to say is look out, world. It's been my pleasure to help you tell your stories and share your expertise through conference sessions and through articles in L&L. But most of all, it's been wonderful to both learn with and from you. So carry on. And woohoo! Woohoo!
Thank you, Anita, and as you can tell, we wish you the very, very best. Thanks a million for everything. And now to the business at hand, I would like to introduce to you this morning's keynote speaker, Dr. Yong Zhao. Dr. Zhao currently serves as Presidential Chair and Associate Dean for Global Education at the University of Oregon's College of Education. He's an internationally known scholar, author, and speaker. His work focuses on the implication of globalization and technology on education. He's designed schools that cultivate global competence, developed computer games for language learning, and founded research and development institutions to explore innovative education models. He's published over 100 articles, 20 books, and was named one of 2012's 10 most influential people in education technology by Tech and Learning magazine. Please help me welcome Dr. Yong Zhao. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Well, thank you, Don. I've heard that you are the most inspiring, enthusiastic, and interesting audience I've ever spoken. I hope that's true, right? Yes? Yeah, how do we know? How do we know? I was thinking about to thank Don for taking ISTE to such a global stage. And ISTE is growing so much. I'm watching it grow. There's only one complaint I have is about the conference. They choose the the wrong site. I kind of hate places like San Diego. Places like this shouldn't exist. It's too perfect, too nice, then you go home, what's going to happen now, right? San Diego is like the beta version or demo version of any software you can have. It doesn't work. It's but, well, you know, you never know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But today, actually, I'm very happy to be here to get a chance to speak to you. I know it's webcasting and people in other places might be watching this as well. And I know I can never compete with Mark Prinsky, who can do it without a tie. I got to put a tie on, so that's another thing. It's, what I'm going to start with is some test for you, since we're in the mood of national testing, national assessment, right? It's a good test. If I got to click the right thing too, you know. Has it come up yet? Okay, good. Here's this. I took this picture a few years ago in South Africa at the airport. It's a product of, it's an advertisement for product. So can you guess what product this is? GPS, where are you from? Here? GPS. Any other guesses? No? Well, I know someone from Australia is here. When I showed this picture 3 weeks ago in Australia, you know what they said? Everyone said it's Viagra. I don't know. I'm not joking. Seriously, it's until I show them this next picture. Now they say it's GPS. Okay. And then I show them another one. They say, okay, now it's really GPS. But when actually people read images differently, have different interpretations. So when I show this picture among researchers or in education, people think I was making fun of Americans' education reform. Saying we don't know really which direction we're going. We don't know. It's you got Bush, you got Clinton, we pick in goals 2000, we pick Common Core Standards, we pick anything, right? Yes, we can pick something. It's but it's interesting, think it like that. It's I feel GPS is a very interesting metaphor for us to think about education. It's a great technology, but you got to know where you're going with it. Right? That's important. If you don't know where you're going with it, it's like education reform. We're trying to make our schools so effective and our teachers so effective, but effective in doing what? That's where a question we need to all have to ask. What really matters? Because if you're not careful, like I think education reform in the US, in many other countries, has practically arrived here. It's now, the importance of destination is absolutely important. Because if we don't know, really, I think because any destination, any definition you set is going to drive what you do. So I'm sure you all know this story. You know where this is? That's another test, okay, for you guys. Easter Island. I got some not only inspiring, interesting, but smart audience too. You know, it's all right, you know. But how do you know who built this? Gotcha, huh? I don't know either, by the way, okay. It's the indigenous people, you're really smart. Okay. So now let me actually, this is a very interesting story to tell, to think about the importance of goals and selection. This is, of course, on Easter Island. One version, at least, of what happened there was that there was once a prosperous civilization. But somehow, one day, people got into this idea of no stones left behind. Okay. So what they wanted, what they were thinking about is to say, okay, they got into this race. This race, not to the top, but race to build the biggest, giant, most beautiful, handsome stone heads. And because they believe that's an indication of the power of your family, of your tribe, as well as indication of your future prosperity. So every family, every tribe on this island send their people to carve the stones, and they have to cut down the trees to transport this to a right place, in front of the house, to erect the stones. So naturally, they neglected farming, taking care of their animals, basically anything else that's considered not important. Everybody was racing to build the best giant stone heads. And of course, that caused the collapse. This is from Jared Diamond's book, The Collapse, and talk about how civilizations seldom die from murder. They often die by suicide. That's how we do it. If you choose the wrong goal to measure yourself, if you choose the wrong objective to go after, no matter how good, how efficient you are not going to get where you want to go. Actually, the more effective you are, the more efficient you are much more likely to go to self-destruction. So if you think that's a metaphor, with building the best GPS, building the biggest stoneheads, is that getting us anywhere? So think about the U.S. education reform, not only U.S. Actually, as far as I know, this is happening in England with the new national curriculum, Australia, and the NAPLAN test, and of course, New Zealand. You're doing all this testing idea. So if you look, just think about the U.S. There's some major initiatives happening to us. Common Core. Yesterday I was going across the street. A lot of people trying to sell the Common Core, right? By the way, I have to tell you, I would love the Common Core standards if they are not common or core. I mean, it's a great thing. It's to have. It's not nothing. I love standards. Think about nets. It's a great standard, but not common, not core. And we still don't know how to figure out. I think right now we are lost in terms of what's the purpose of education. Where are we going with this? I mean, if you look at this, I mean, we are in the U.S. pushing for the idea of a race to the top. Really, race to the top of what? I haven't figured out this race to the top of what. Sometimes, I actually would like to have some children left behind. It's a good idea, right? I mean, if you race all of them to the top, you push them to the cliff, and that's no child left behind. That's what we call that. But fundamentally, there's three major initiatives, plus any other standards movement. They're all trying to apply one thing to measure the goal, the purpose, the quality of students, of teachers, and of schools, and of education systems. That is, we call them the new guard in education. I would call this test scores. Everyone's going to build up on their test scores. Everyone's going to go after that. In the U.S., look at the current movement of trying to tie test scores to teacher evaluation, to student evaluation, to a future. And actually, I have to say this, a lot of technology has been trying to prove we can improve test scores. We have lost, honestly, a decade of opportunities to explore truly the power of technology by trying to subject technology as a tool to improve test scores. And many of you, as educators in the audience, you know this. Even though you know your children are learning something useful, powerful, you still have to prove at least they are not going to damage your test scores. Technology today, when I say a lot of products out there, is being used to enslave students and teachers so they can produce better scores, not to liberate them. Technology today is used to drive big data systems as if we know everything, to measure your students step by step. That's not the right way to do it. So today what I'm going to try to prove to you from a more global perspective is that test scores may just be like the giant stoneheads. They look beautiful, they look nice, they're seductive, but they don't really lead to real education, what we need. Before I move on, so I want to give you another, you can finish this quote yourself. This is from Albert Einstein. It's that everyone is a genius. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it would live its whole life believing it's stupid. That's it. That's how we judge it. If technology is to be judged by your ability to read test scores, I've been in technology research for a long time. I'm always trying to prove, yes, I can do Common Core. You shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have this technology can do this, that. Because you cannot judge technology by its ability to climb the tree. It's the same thing, Otherwise, Google, if you judge Google by its ability to cook coffee, that would be a bad Google, right? So now, this is, if you want, some of you are following me already. The slides I put here will be on my website. You can take it down. By the way, that website is the only website you will need besides ISTE, okay, in your life. I got to be nice to ISTE folks. And also, I want to tell you that I create a lot more slides. than I normally use. Not because I like them, because I'm accountable for making the number of slides. I'm paid by the number of slides I make, so that's what I do. You create more. I'm going to skip some, maybe not. So some of the talk data today were based on my last book, and that was published by ISTE a few years ago. But I'm so happy to announce today my new book is released today, actually, right now. Today it's by Corwin. It's called World Class Learners, and about educating creative and entrepreneur students. So the data has come from these two books. But now I'm going to start by asking several questions. The first question is that why did not China have a big party? Many of you may think I'm talking about the Communist Party, which is not, which is huge. Actually, I'm not talking about that party. I'm talking about a party to celebrate its outstanding achievement. If you remember this, a few years ago, when the PISA was released, 2009 PISA, everyone knows what the PISA is, right? Oh, no, but not everyone. It's not the city, it's not the food, not pizza, okay. It's the largest international academic horse race. It's a test of 15-year-olds in 3 areas. And it's by the OECD, started about a decade ago. Now it runs every 3 years. This round is happening right now. I think some 70 countries are doing this. It's become the gold standard of education globally. Everybody uses. So when people talk about PISA, it's like the best measurement of a nation's educational quality. It's basically like the Stoneheads for Easter Island. So think about that. That's called a PISA. So when the data was released, last round, China's Shanghai participated for the first time. And it took #1 in all 3 categories. So at that time, President Obama said this: "This is a Sputnik moment of our generation. The Chinese kids from Shanghai are going to bomb us with math scores." No, he didn't say that part. He said the first part. Okay. And Arne Duncan, our Secretary of Education, said this is absolutely a wake-up call. We got to act. And actually, this is when China participated in this one, they replaced Finland. Finland used to be doing very well. You say Finland is dropping on this list. And I was in Australia, people say, you should be so sick of Finland now. Everybody talks about Finland. It's perfect education. Of course, it's perfect because it's boring, right? It's a place. Now, if you think about this system, lots of people are trying to understand, how did these countries do so well? They're all trying to learn. They're trying to understand, from teachers to curriculum to gateways to assessments to everything. They're trying to understand. I mean, recently, OECD came up with a report. I think Thomas Friedman actually wrote about it in the New York Times. It's talk about countries have a lot of natural resources, do not do very well on the PISA because they don't have to learn. They don't have to educate. So they cite examples in the Middle East. Australia and Canada are the exception. You guys have natural resources, but you're smart enough to reinvest. That's the idea, okay? America, basically, if you follow that suggestion, we should... Texans, you guys have to move away. You got too much oil there. You can't do those things. That's why you only improve your scores, move to Finland. Okay. But in my analysis, actually, if you look at these top 5 countries, if you take Finland out, what's in common across them? Asian countries. So it has nothing to do with natural resources. It has to do with what you eat with. It's chopsticks. If you use chopsticks, chopsticks are a very hard, challenging cognitive task. You have 2 sticks. Can you handle a Big Mac with 2 sticks? Or soup. That's why the Asians are so smart. They score so well on this thing. I think for any country you want to improve, we should mandate chopstick usage. That solves the problem. Now, seriously, China has become the country of admiration. China now is viewed to be the cleverest country in the world by BBC. And there's a book published by Harvard Education Press. If you look inside, it's by Mark Tucker from the NCEE, the National Center for Education and the Economy. And there's a lot of very well-known writers in this book. When I look at this book, I said, America is really not doing very well. Because now we have lowered our national goal to surpass Shanghai. I mean, there's nothing to surpass other than test scores. I mean, as an immigrant to the US, this is really disappointing. I was lured here by bigger dreams like John F. Kennedy. He said, let's send someone to the moon. I could even put up with George Bush's dream and say, let's read. I mean, if you remember that time in you remember George Bush came in, one of the State of the Union addresses, let's make sure every third grader can read. Reading is tough for him, but shouldn't be hard for everybody else. Now, think about this. I think reading literacy is absolutely essential, but should never become a national goal. It should be the floor, not the ceiling. Now we're getting worse. We want to surpass Shanghai. This is getting even crazier, right? Think about this thing. So, now, by the way, I want to say this. America is not only crazy country. Australia has its own share as well. You can say that, okay, think about this. The Grattan Institute, based in Melbourne, non-profit organization. Actually, I know these people. I'm friends with them, and I kind of, okay with them. But they came up with this crazy assessment. So they came back with a big report, was floating all over the Australian media, right? Whether Murdoch doesn't have to phone hack it to find out. He doesn't have to know. He finds this thing. And they find out what? Australian kids are 2 years behind students in Shanghai. That's serious. If you're 15, 2 years behind, that's bad education, considered, right? So that's why they think we got to learn from Shanghai. And I have to tell you, in the US, China has become this top education country, top everything country. Anyone from Pennsylvania here? Good. Remember you had who was your last governor? Randall, right? Ed Randall, right? Remember about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a football game scheduled in Philadelphia. Because of winter storm, they had to cancel the game. And your governor was very unhappy. He went on radio and he had this to say in public. So we've become a nation of wussies. The Chinese are kicking our butt in everything. If this was in China, do you think the Chinese would have called off the game? People would have been marching down to the stadium, they would have walked, and they would have been doing calculus on their way down. I have no idea how China got into this game. China doesn't play football. But also, actually, China is an idol also for England. The new Secretary of Education in England, Michael Gove, wrote in a Telegraph, said, I'm happy to confess that I'd like us to implement a cultural revolution, just like the one they had in China. I have no idea your Secretary of Education knows what the cultural revolution was. If he knew it was 10 years of turmoil to destroy education, that's problematic. That means England is facing really big trouble. If he didn't know, it's also scary because he had no idea what it was as Secretary of Education. And he wanted, like Chairman Mao, we've embarked on a long march to reform our education system. So you see all these countries trying to admire China. And China is a country who will not miss any opportunity to celebrate its global achievement. But China this time, when the PISA was released, it did not celebrate at all. If you read any of the readings, when I talk about PISA, they're not happy actually. And why? That's why did not China celebrate? I think China did not celebrate because they were looking for different talents. Premier Wen Jiabao said, we want Steve Jobs. Why can't we have Steve Jobs? And then, why do they want Steve Jobs? Well, because China is facing economical transition. They have to move from cheap labor to knowledge-driven, to innovation-driven. And they don't feel like their system can do it. Like Kai-Fu Lee, who was the Google China president, now retired. He's an immigrant from Taiwan to Tennessee, and they went to school, I think, Columbia. Then Carling Manning worked as vice president of Microsoft. So he's a very big technology, innovative person from different places. I think he actually said this publicly. He said, at the Davos Summer Forum in China, said, the next Google or Apple will emerge, but probably not in China, probably not in 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, because unless they abolish demolish everything, basically, the whole education system. So you have the best education system and the worst education system combined. I mean, if you look at the same thing, the data from in terms of patents, innovations, you got, look at this one. China as a nation, 473 internationally recognized patent filings in 2008, the most recent data available. But China has 20% of the world's population. So by any statistical probability, there should have been more baby Steve Jobs born in China. But what happened to the baby Steve Jobs? That's the question we all need to ask. And most people in China say their education system has stifled them, has killed off those baby Steve Jobs. That's what the summary. And now, this next one, I was going to talk about Singapore, so now I'm going to skip that. Okay. The next question is called, why aren't the model minority happy? People always say, well, who is the model minority? I am the model minority. Standing up here, this is actually a bad term. It's a racist term created in the 1950s to describe the lack, to deny the existence of racism in the US. Because they said at that time, look at the Asian immigrants, the Chinese, the Japanese, and the Koreans. Somehow they all have made it into so-called middle class, or upper middle class. They said, there's no racism in the US. They're trying to deny that. Okay. So that's a racist term. But now it's continued to be used. Today, you know, you read Professor Amy Chua's book of the Tiger Mom book, remember last year? They're trying to put up the Asians as the model minorities again. And as you know, from schools, you know, every country, the East Asian minorities at least, do very well academically. Very well. I used to do work on a book called Demystifying the Model Minority Myth. They do very well. You know, like nationally, we have a lot of data to show that NAEP data, longitudinally, Asian as a group do very well than other ethnic groups. I know some schools trying to get Asians to help them boost their test scores so they can beat AYP, you know, to do those things. Actually, it's more shocking is like Asian Americans right now is about 5% of the US population. But they take 15 to 25% of Ivy League enrollments. That's very disproportional, right? You look at Stanford, you have 24%. Berkeley, right nearby, you know, UC Berkeley has 46%. UC Los Angeles, UCLA stands for UC lots of Asians. Now, well, USC too, right? And that's even higher, right? So think about this percentage. So anybody who look at this data will say the Asians are the model minority academically. I mean, of course, in Australia, you have the same story every place. But a recent data came out to say Asians somehow they do not carry the same excellence in their workspace. They want leadership positions, but they're not put in leadership positions. But 2% of the Fortune 500 companies, board membership was taken by Asians, which is low, much lower than what the Ivy League achievement. So naturally, the Asians have been talking a lot amongst ourselves in our own little languages. You can understand. And then we try to understand two things. One is that, is there still racism or racial stereotyping? We call that glass ceiling, but of course, as Asians, we don't call glass ceiling, we call it bamboo ceiling. Then the second thing has to do with education. Is there something wrong with our education? Maybe our education only can go so far, but actually there may be some damage done, like East Asian education. That's the question we've been asking. The third big question is, why is America still here? That's not an Al-Qaeda terrorist question. Okay, that's not. It is actually a very genuine question I've been asking from a historical perspective. You hear that every day that American education is getting worse, it's on decline, we get worse statistics year after year. You hear it all the time. College Board just put a big advertisement on New York Times as we're crumbling all those things. From historical data, I can tell you, American education is not in decline, is not getting worse. It has always been bad. It has always been bad. But the issue is that if it has been bad for so long, why is America still here? That's the question. Right? I mean, if you look at the data, it was bad in the 1950s, worse than that in the Soviet Union, right after Sputnik. Even Life magazine has stories showing you this. You can get this free on Google. Take a look at the whole issue. You know, at that time, our education was worse than the Soviet Union because our students do not have rigorous curriculum, do not spend enough time academic studies. I mean, those are two kids. One is from Chicago, one is from Moscow. They're both 18 high school students. Look, that's, I don't have to tell you which one is American. The smiley, happy kid. It's, that's Stephen from Chicago. It's, now, well, because he's too happy, that's the problem with our missile issue. It's, why was he happy? Because our schools do not have rigorous standards. We do not require our kids to spend enough time in schools. We short longer. And, you know, kids are not so serious. We were then worse than Japan. Remember this? A nation at risk? Our nation was in crisis in 1958. Then our nation was at risk in 1983 under Ronald Reagan. Remember that time? And we were worse than Japan. Now we are worse than China and India. Some of you may have seen this movie called 2 Minutes. Showed how American kids, basically the same problem, have lower aspirations, less rigorous curriculum, spend less time studying academics. So America should not exist. Look at the historical data. Our first international mathematics study, America's 12th graders ranked 12th out of 12 countries. You can't get worse than that. Remember, that was how long ago? So if anyone says that it's getting worse, just show them as one piece. You can't get worse than this. Unless your math is really bad. Now, you take this data, you look at FIMSS first, SIMS second, until TIMSS. TIMSS is third. International, now it's changing the trends, international mathematics study. If anything, we've been doing okay. I mean, actually, we're getting better. Now, we've had bad education for 50 years. And supposedly, we haven't done anything to improve it. So why is America still here? And it's not only here, it's actually doing fine. You know, according to President Obama in his State of the Union address, he said, America still has the largest, most prosperous economy in the world. No workers are more productive than ours. By the way, I know it's election year. Not everything presidents say is true, but this is more true than other truth, more factual than other facts. And actually, it's real. It's true. It's real. The U.S. has the largest economy, 3 times of that of number 2, China. China has 4 times of the population. U.S. grants more patents than anybody else. So it's very true. Now, who did it? Who made the U.S. still the most largest prosperous economy? I'd like to think it's immigrants like me. I think I came over here to save all you guys from your bad test scores. It's possible, but unlikely. If you look at the data, even in the high-tech industry called computer science or information technology, about 10% are foreign-born. So 90% are those Stevens, are those bad test takers. You guys, you know, you go into the system. Now, so you have this interesting paradox to explain. The best education system in China, but its worst education system, everyone says, you know, we should get rid of it. The so-called minority groups doing so well, but they're not doing very well. So Asians asking the question, are we real dragons or paper tigers? Then you have the worst education system, supposedly measured by test scores, other things, but still doing fine. So how do you explain this? And I think the first explanation comes from this interesting data. This is actually from my new book. If you look at the red line, it's a simple ranking of 25 industrialized countries in math on the PISA scores. Then there's another study called the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which started about the same time as the PISA. It do an annual survey of entrepreneur activities and entrepreneur capabilities. So the blue line indicates the ranking of the countries with people who are confident, who believe they can engage in entrepreneur activities, called perceived entrepreneur capabilities. As you can see, they don't go together. If you like more statistics, here's some, negative correlation, if you like that. This is just to make you believe I've done the work. And now, how do you really, actually, if you like more, I have even more coefficients for you to remember. Okay. So the overall idea is that PISA scores have a negative correlation with entrepreneurial activities. Very fascinating, right? So it doesn't work. But how could we explain this? Again, how do you get there? What basically has to do, education sometimes, you cannot have both. It's what we call side effects. When you take medicine, it cures you, but it hurts you as well. So look at this data. 2003 TIMSS, Trends in International Mathematics Study. American students, as usual, ranked way below Asian kids. This screen, actually, I was very nice, because this is a conceptual presentation. If you use the real scales, you have to find America in the basement. It's very low. Okay. So this is test scores in math. But on the same test assessment, they asked several other questions. One of them has to do with confidence. The statement is like, I usually do well in math. Strongly agree, agrees a lot, agrees a little, disagrees a lot, disagrees a little. So the result shocked a lot of researchers. American students basically are mathematically ignorant as test score, but they are very confident. So, what you see here is very interesting. To look at this thing, American kids say, okay, I cannot do it, but I think I can do it. So right, now, if you look at this, look at this characteristic. That's what we call it. It may be wrong, but that's how I feel about it. Look at Singapore versus the U.S. Singapore was ranked #1 in math scores, but only 18% of Singaporean students said, I think I do well in math. America is ranked below everything, and they have 40% of kids say, I think I can do well in mathematics. And if you look at the data across, globally, it's negative correlation, both enjoyment and confidence. So somehow, it's negative across some 20-some countries. Countries of higher math scores have lower enjoyment, lower confidence. So how does this work? Maybe by pushing you to get the scores, maybe you are damaging the confidence. But what matters? So in the US, a lot of US policymakers look at this data. They think our kids are simply too happy to be good at mathematics. They're too confident, they're too happy. And why are they so happy, so confident? Because they don't know how bad they are. How come they don't know how bad they are? Because we have low standards. So to improve our education, we have to make our kids slightly more miserable, and we need to bring in globally benchmark standards. We need to teach Algebra 2 to everybody. We need to change that. Did you notice that what we're doing? But standards not enough without testing, because with standards you got to test them too. If you test them and tell them how bad they are all the time, they will truly learn how to be kind of humble and modest and improve the math scores. That's what we've been doing over the past few decades, actually. Now the Common Core is built as globally benchmark standards, if you look at that thing. So also the other thing the US math educators observed, in most Western countries, America of course included, most teachers care more about children than math. That's such a big problem, It's just you care too much. Because when a child comes to a class in the first grader and you ask Johnny, what's 1 + 1? If Johnny tells you 3, most of you do not have the guts to say, Johnny, that's wrong. You will tell Johnny, Johnny, it's an interesting answer. Can you say more about it? Well, basically too soft. We can't face the mathematical truth. Now that's why we're teaching California back to basics. Forget about those things, right? That's why we're moving. But Asian countries actually have taken a very different approach. Asian countries look at the lack of confidence, the same data. Lack of confidence as a problem. Because confidence underpins creativity and entrepreneurship. Underpins the drive to be innovative. If you don't have that, no matter what you learn, if you don't even believe what you've learned, what's the point? So actually most Asian countries have done the reform in the opposite way. They said, Forget about the knowledge, just teach less. Let's teach less. Let's worry less about test scores. Let's worry more about kids' happiness and confidence. So it's opposite reform efforts. That's why I would say, if you look at Asian countries, I was actually just looking at, there's a stampede in Vietnam for parents trying to get into this American-style school in Hanoi. I was just reading the news there. American education, Western-style education is liked by everybody except Americans. I mean, American policymakers. That's the idea. It's going everywhere. So you have to think about this issue. Then, there's other explanation. This one is a better explanation to Lady Gaga. I'm sorry I cannot find a picture appropriate for this audience. I apologize. But you all know who she is and what she does. You can say this. You may not like her, at least not in public, but it's just she is talented. She is entrepreneurial. She is creative. She's done all of those things, right? But can any school, can any organization create a Lady Gaga curriculum? A common core for Lady Gaga. Can you do it? But that's what our schools do, right? That's our schools. So the traditional model of any education is about creating a curriculum. We all do that. Curriculum is making a bet of what will matter in the future. That's what we do. We create curriculum. That's why literacy, numeracy, science, we create that curriculum. We make a bet that if you follow this curriculum, you will be successful in the future. That's what called common core, called college ready and ready for career. Right? That's what I talk about. Now, the issue is that when we make any of those predictions, we're based on today or past. So I had this very interesting mental exercise. I took Lady Gaga back to my village. I come from China, from a little village. And I'm going there next month. So my father still lives there, and he's 85, he's illiterate, he doesn't watch TV. He, of course, had no idea who Lady Gaga is. But I was doing this great exercise, so explaining to him, would Lady Gaga be useful in our village? That's the fundamental question. And so we went through this exercise. If in our village, if we were going to create a common core curriculum, what would be most valuable subjects? The most valuable would be the ability to drive a water buffalo. That can be very tough. It's much more, can be harder than AP algebra. You think about this. You have to know about the water buffalo. My father actually was my village's ETS and college board. He served as the assessor of water buffaloes. When they were born, they were young, he would go around to say, this is going to be a great water buffalo. That's a GRE scores, SAT business. He was doing this. So that's what he was doing. It's very complicated stuff. So he said, if we had a common core, would be ability to drive a water buffalo. And then we kind of talk about, we don't think Lady Gaga would be good at doing that. Right? So if you're not good at that, remember you said about any curriculum, you put assessment in, you are not only educating, you are selecting. So if Lady Gaga cannot do well in the village, she had to leave. That's why I had to leave. I couldn't do this stuff. That's why I'm here. So now, Lady Gaga represents a diversity of talents. In essence, America is still here because it relied on a diversity of talents. Why are these so important? Professor Amy Chua actually wrote an earlier book called Day of Empire, in which she asked the question, how did certain countries become global hyperpowers to gain global dominance? And her answer actually is very interesting. After studying the Tang Dynasty, China, the British Empire, the Roman Empire, one thing in common, which is tolerance. Tolerance. And then the same answer was reached by Richard Florida, who studies modern cosmopolitan area cities, to say, how come certain areas become more prosperous than others? And he actually came with three things, three T's: technology, talents, and tolerance. What does tolerance get us? Tolerance gets us a diversity of talents like Lady Gaga, gets us creativity and entrepreneurship. As I will explain in my book called Creativity and Entrepreneurship are key, and they are actually human elements, the human spirit. We're all born with the capacity to create and to enterprise. So I don't think American schools so far has been able to teach creativity any better than other schools. Creativity, I will say this, cannot be taught in general as a spirit, but it can be killed. American schools don't teach better, we kill it less successfully than others. So how do we manage to do that? That's basically how the model goes. So the Asian countries, they can destroy confidence. This, another one, when you have a perfect system, you in essence make everybody go through the same. The Lady Gaga's, baby Steve Jobs were left out of the system. That's the difference, number two. Then the other explanation is this, it's choice. Wealth of a nation is different. This is the illiteracy map of the world. The darker the areas, the higher the illiteracy rate. That's why I said US should never use reading as a national goal. You look at this thing. And then look at the conditions. A lot of developed countries have a lot more resources. A lot of schools, 80% of kids do not have that. If you want to compete over one thing, over test scores, I can bet you, like me, I did, in those impoverished classrooms, I can do this. But that's reducing your $10,000 education to a $10 education. In this environment, you have this, you have a lot of musical instruments, computers. Why do you want to go after test scores like other countries who can't? I can also promise you, I could have become a Justin Bieber if I had access to music when I was in my village. Now, that's forever. I don't have that. But why do you want to impoverish our otherwise great environment? So the three explanations, it's very simple. Number one, what matters? Test scores or confidence? Number two, do you allow exceptional talents to exist? Are you tolerant enough? And number four, are you taking advantage of the resources you have? Or are you trying to impoverish in order to pursue test scores? So what I want to explain is the gaps we talk a lot about with the glass of beer. I know you're in San Diego, enjoy this. And this is a glass of beer. I grew up in a village in China, never had a chance to drink beer or practice. Time on task is the best predictor of your performance. I did not have a lot of time on task with beer drinking. I wasn't good. I came to University of Illinois to do graduate study. People in the Midwest had a lot of time on task, legally or illegally. So they're better. When I finished one, they've done three, and that's my achievement gap. But fortunately, this gap hasn't mattered. So when you think of it, when people tell you those gaps, you don't have to argue with them to say, well, we're behind. Does that gap matter? All of you have different gaps. Some of you guys have more hair than others. That's a gap, right? That's a big, serious gap. But doesn't matter. Not in San Diego, at least. Minnesota might, but not here. Now, what would the future require? That's what I'm talking about. The future, I don't know what the future needs. But I can tell you the Stone Age did not end because they ran out of stones. Anything can change. What we need, think about this picture. This is the value distribution of Apple's iPhone. When you pay $299, where did the money go? 58% went to Apple computers as profit. Everybody talk about China. China has 2% of your great iPhone. Apple computers, 20-some thousand employees made an average profit per employee of over 400,000. In China, how much money they make? Tiny little bit. So this is the will of the future world. The global supply chain. Who makes what? Of course, China wants to go to the Apple zone, the blue zone, but can they do it educationally? That's where we need the creativity, we need innovation, because in the future, the human resource is a very long chain. Now people are talking about hyper-specialization. We do little tiny things, contribute to product, but you have to be good and great. That's where you need to be. Mass production is not going to work. Mass production was in the manufacture. It's been replaced by machines or by cheap labor in other places. In the 1950s, when you work in a manufacturing company, they need a lot of people with similar skills. Today, you need a lot of unique people with special skills. You have to be, not to be good, you have to be great. So this is, I can reach Florence there and say how the different professions has changed. You can say how the creativity class is rising. Not necessarily of what we want, but we are forced to do it. And also for developed countries, for countries have a lot of resources, this is not only an economical necessity, but it's a moral responsibility. Because in my village, I could never become a Justin Bieber. Choice is not a bad thing. It may drag down your average scores, but it's actually quite cool to have. Now, what do we need to do? We need to think about everybody as entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs traditionally means people who want to maximize profits. Today, they are really expanding the definition to include business entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs. I view actually ISTE as a social enterprise. You have intrapreneurs, people work within an organization to be creative. A lot of teachers like that. We have policy entrepreneurs. That's a new term, a wishful term for bureaucrats. We want them to be policy makers, to be policy entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, the new definition is in essence someone when he or she is unhappy with a situation. He or she comes up with a creative solution, put it into action, and see it through. In a new book, actually I called Coming Prosperity, the definition of entrepreneurs is called black-collar workers. Basically, that's inspired by Steve Jobs' black turtleneck. That's how it is. It's creative, entrepreneur. You don't wait. You do not wait for someone to create a job for you. You go out there to create a job for yourself. So education, therefore, needs to move, to have a paradigm shift, to shift from employment-oriented education towards entrepreneur, creative, talent-oriented education. And that has to focus on a lot more on the human elements, human spirit. So education, I would suggest, needs to abandon this idea of reducing people's talents into employable skills. That's what I do. This is a great sausage making machine, right? You put all the people in there, run through 12 years, boom, you have good sausage, right? That's the idea. And American education follows the same model, but it's a bad sausage making machine. It's broken. So you get people leaked out, they become bacon, they become Steve Jobs. That's how it happens. And our reform right now is trying to plug those holes. That's going the opposite. We're trying to fix a 19th century horse wagon which won't take us to the moon no matter how perfect it is. We need to change. The paradigm shift would be going from here to education is about enhancing human capacity. This model, first of all, you have to believe that every talent is useful. Do not judge it. Do not prejudge it. If Lady Gaga is useful, everyone can be useful. Just believe that. But how do we enhance this? Therefore, education has to change. To think about the curriculum, this is from my book, it's called, the curriculum should follow the child. Education should be develop the strength, personalized and strength-based. Education is not about fixing someone's deficit. It's to enhance their strength. Number two, schooling has to become product-oriented. Not kids trying to make stuff, just for the teacher. They have to make real products. I was last week at the Buck Institute for Education's PBL World Conference. I was talking about, it's not only about project-based. I think project-based learning, PBL, has been misused a lot of times. Kids can say through your end, don't want to make anything, you just want me to do the work. And my son has gone through a lot of those projects. I say, do you want to do more about this? No, the teacher doesn't want it. That's fine, okay. So I'm changing this term to product-oriented learning. With technology, we need to turn our children into makers and creators and entrepreneurs, not only consumers. Through making, through designing, they learn. That's how they do it. And last thing, that's, again, ISTE is great for this. Where can this happen? Dong just said beautifully, beyond our walls. The globe is our campus. Global competency, we need to learn. Others in other countries are not our competitors. They are our collaborators, they are our investors, they are our customers. Our children need to learn how to do all of those things. So to summarize, to end, I think the purpose of education, our big giant stone heads, lies in every of our child. Test scores, no matter what they claim to be, common assessment or non-common assessment, no matter what kind of test comes out, as long as it's standardized, it should not apply to everybody. Test scores do not reflect your teaching ability, your students' of future, or your school's quality. What do you need? A real good education is one that helps every individual child to maximize their potential. And you can do that. Thank you. 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 Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 Thank you.